Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to the very final episode of the Severn Way. Yes, the weather is a little bit different to last time I was here, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we finished our journey from the village of Severn to here at Severn Beach in South Gloucestershire. Our adventures today are, well, quite extensive because we have over 15 miles to walk right into the heart of the City of Bristol. So though we're here in South Gloucestershire at the moment, in less than a mile we'll be crossing over the border into the city and the county of Bristol. Bristol has been its own separate place since the 1300s. I can't remember the exact date, when Bristol used to be part of both Somerset and Gloucestershire. Our adventures today, though, will take in lots of places like Shirehampton and Sea Mills, where there used to be a Roman port, before walking under the Clifton suspension bridge alongside the Avon Gorge and into the heart of the floating harbour via Hot Wells. But before we start our walk today, there's a couple of things I want to tell you. First of all, about Severn Beach itself, because of the history of this area. It's quite fascinating. I didn't have time to share that with you last time. And also something that happened here in the 1600s, a monumental event. I do apologise for my hat looking slightly squashed. I'm afraid my chin strap's a necessity at the moment because it's very, very blowy, and I don't want my hat ending up there in the Bristol Channel. I think once we get around towards the Avon Gorge, it'll be a lot less blowy. Fingers crossed anyway. Rain's holding off at the moment, but it is very, very cloudy. Now, the railway arriving here at Severn Beach in 1900 was an interesting event. All of the hinterland, the other side of the sea wall here, used to be completely farmland. Today, it's a residential suburb of the city of Bristol, though, of course, we are here in South Gloucestershire at the moment. Now, when the railway arrived, and I say it was linked to Pilning, where we had that ferry there, didn't we, going across to Portescuit, South Wales. All that was made redundant with the opening of the Severn Tunnel. There was an entrepreneur who seized upon an opportunity. He saw people arriving here to Severn Beach to enjoy the sea air and the coast, and he took advantage of that. He built a swimming pool, an outdoor swimming pool, which was known as the Blue Lagoon. There was a miniature railway here. There was a boating lake. There was lots going on here. In fact, there was a fun fair here for most of the year. There was hotels and restaurants, and people would come here, day trippers, people staying for several days as well in the hotels to enjoy the sea air from the Bristol Channel. Yes, it's all very hard to imagine on a very grey and blowy day here in August, but it did happen. Who was this mysterious person, though? Enter one Robert Stride. Now, Robert Stride was the son of Alfred Stride, and Alfred Stride's father was George, so Robert's grandfather. Yeah, it gets a little bit confusing, just bear with me. He had a brother called, I think it was called Eldred or Ephred, and together with other members of the Stride family, like Jared and Jethro, yes I know, typical West Country names, they built a lot of the housing up around the Shirehampton area in the 19th century. So he came from quite a wealthy family, quite of a wealthy entrepreneur, property developer type of family. And he saw this opportunity that when the railway arrived here, he could get people in from the city of Bristol, and bearing in those days, it would have been very industrial with factories and smoke, and the air was probably not that great, to bring them to here, where you have lots and lots of fresh air. We certainly do on this morning here in August. And he thought it would be a great idea that people could come here as day trippers and they would spend money on the boating lake and eating and drinking. In fact, he took advantage of the less strict licensing laws. Because we're outside of the city limits of Bristol here, the licensing laws here at Severn Beach were a lot less strict than they were just a couple of miles inside the border of Bristol there. And I think they could sell alcohol for a lot longer during the daytime. So people would flock, they would come from Temple Meads and other stations in Bristol and come here to Severn Beach to spend a few hours, if not a lot longer. And it was extremely popular. It's really hard to imagine just how popular it was. But sadly no more. Why is there no resort here now? Well, of course it changed from the 50s, late 50s, going into the 60s. The motor car people travelled further afield, and later on you had flights, packages, holidays, people going into the resorts in Spain, that sort of thing. And then later in the 70s, of course, the motorway opened so people could get down further into Devon and Cornwall a lot easier to the resorts down there. And because there's no proper sandy beach here, they decided, well, they'd kind of turned their back on Severn Beach, even though it had all the resort facilities all ran into decline. And sadly now the Boating Lake and the Blue Lagoon, well, it's all gone, all disappeared and replaced with suburban housing. It's a shame really, because there isn't an attractive air about this place, though it is a bit blowy and we haven't got a bit of a grey sky. You can see the appeal it would have had from the people that were living in the urban centre of Bristol. Now, as you can see here, we've got the sea wall. In fact, behind me there's actually a measuring gauge for floodwater. And that's really important. It protects the village here at Severn Beach from when the Bristol Channel becomes in flood. And it has done that many, many times. However, there was one event in 1607 that was very, very memorable. It affected the land, not just here at Severn Beach, but all the way down, right down the Bristol Channel, as far as North Devon. It was the 30th of January, 1607, that the Bristol Channel flood happened, sometimes known as the Somerset Tsunami. It devastated a lot of villages. In fact, it didn't just devastate this side of the Bristol Channel, but also into Wales. In fact, there's a church just outside the city of Newport where there is a brass plaque marker, see if I can find a photograph there, showing you the flood height. Several churches remained underwater for several days. Possibly as many as 2,000, but perhaps up to 6,000 or 7,000 people lost their lives on this very tragic event. We didn't have the protection of the sea walls like we do today. They just didn't simply exist, although there are one or two. There was a seawall at Burnham-on-Sea, but further south from here in the county of Somerset, that was completely and utterly destroyed by the flood water. So what happened? So what caused this event alongside the Bristol Channel, both the English coast and the Welsh coast? Well, it was some kind of storm surge. There was a very, very low pressure building up wind, so wind was an important factor. It happened to coincide with heavy rainfall and also very high spring tides. So you had all those three things that came together. It actually affected some 30 villages, both here around the Bristol area and a bit further south in Somerset and into Devon as well. It was completely and utterly devastating. Now, well, we do remember, I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago, when there was a lot of devastation in the Somerset levels in that area there. But this was much, much worse than that. It was horrendous. Now, a few years ago, the University of Wollongong, which is in Sydney in Australia, yes I know, long, long way from here where we are on the Bristol Channel, they wrote a report in 2007. In fact, they worked with the University of Bath. Now, this paper that they came up with postulated a new theory about these floods, and they said that it wasn't caused by the storm, the weather and the rain, but it was caused by something else. A tsunami. Now, what's a tsunami? Well, they're quite common in Asia when you have seismic activity, an earthquake, and that causes tremors in the sea. And that vibration of the sea causes a large tidal wave, a huge wave, to come across and smash into the coast and drive the water right over. We don't know, of course, for certain that it was a tsunami, and I'll put a link to their paper in the description of today's video because it makes really interesting reading. I'm not an expert to know whether it was or whether it wasn't. I'll let you decide that for yourselves, but it's certainly fascinating to think that at one time back in 1607 there may have been a tsunami out here in the Bristol Channel, sweeping its way both this way into England and that way into Wales, causing devastation in its path. Of course, we don't have any photographs to show that. We have that plaque over to that little village just down the outskirts of Newport. And we have a report, and I can't remember who wrote it now, but there is an extensive diary written. And you can access this online. The whole thing has been scanned in, which gives you detailed eyewitness reports of what happened on that tragic day in January in 1607. With that thought in our mind, we're going to start our walk today, heading towards the city of Bristol. I'm going to be heading south down here to the end of South Gloucestershire, making our way into Bristol. And I'll tell you a little bit about a power station. It's not a nuclear one this time, as we make our way along the seawall. See you in a bit. So just as I've set off here from Severn Beach, walking along the edge of the seawall, doing the pieces to camera just back over there, just in that little leeway there's like a curve bit, so it's quite well, sheltered-ish. That was the theory anyway. So we will be walking up here, and within about a mile or so, as I say, we'll be then turning left. Insert the map now so you can see exactly where we are and today's route. So it's just over 15 and a half miles. It depends where I end up in Bristol today. I haven't quite decided exactly where I'm going to be finishing the Severn Way, so we'll see about that. So I'll see you in a bit. Now, it's a walk alongside the Bristol Channel, in effect the remnants of Sabrina for the final time. I'm sure there'll be other videos which feature the River Severn on my channel at some other point. In fact, there will be at the start of the next project, or after the Severn Way. The next project will be the Geo Parkway, starting in Bridgnorth, which of course is in just outside my area in Shropshire, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a bit of River Severn there as we head south to Gloucester, not along the river, but along a geological formation. More about that in the vlog, monthly vlog at the end of this month. But here though, that's the end of it. It's just got me thinking about what have been my favourite walks along the Severn Way. So this is the 26th one. There are a couple of extra ones because we looked at Shrewsbury, Gloucester and Worcester as separate videos on the channel. So I think, apart from the source, doing the source, which I mentioned last time, which is great. I think if you ever get a chance to go and see the source of the River Severn up there in Mount Plinlimmon, please do so. It's wonderful. The Haffron Forest there, that area is Ridden of Benwich, is really well worth exploring. And Llanellodes is a nice town there in Powys. Apart from that section, the next section I think I really enjoyed the most was Highley to Arley, which is where Highley is again in Shropshire, and then we crossed over into West Country Wanderings territory. I think I made a thing about that when it was a bridge, wasn't there? There's only a little stream there when you went to Worcestershire, and the Severn Valley Railway was running, so walking alongside the River Severn, you've got the steam trains running in that beautiful valley there. It's really, really most extraordinary place. That's got to be up there as being one of my favourite sections. And I think the next section that was my most favourite along the Severn Way was a section between Gloucester and Upper Framilode. And the reason why I really enjoyed that, apart from being an absolutely stunning day, is that is where the Severn is at its most dramatic. Going through the city of Gloucester, the River Severn is quite understated because you've got the East Channel and the West Channel. Because you've got the two separate channels, it's not actually that wide there in the city there, and it's actually narrower there, it looks, than what it does more upstream in Worcester, because there, of course, it's combined. But after it leaves Gloucester, the character of the Severn changes completely within a few short miles. And you also have some beautiful, really, really beautiful, it's highlighted by some nice golden sunshine though, sandbanks there around places like Longney and Epney. That was a really, really good walk. So if you want to do one section of the Severn Way or a couple of sections, I can highly recommend those two. Yeah, Highley to Arley and Gloucester to Upper Framilode. Anyway, we're not going to either of those places today. We're going to the City of Bristol. Now at this point here I'm actually walking alongside right next to the Severn Beach branch line, which is how I arrived here today, and then simply catch the train back. So yes, the railway line is in there, and I just caught a glimpse of a train leaving there, run every hour out of Bristol Temple Meads, every half hour, to a bit further down the track at Avon. There is actually a new railway line here as well, which runs parallel. There's a sign there and it says commencement of one train section, so that's goes parallel here, diverges off here, nothing to do with passengers, and it goes into that, I think, incinerator. There is a new incinerator there, and I think it's to take waste into the incinerator to be burnt to provide energy. I think that's the theory. Further up from there though is a power station, not nuclear like we've seen at Albury and Berkeley on the previous but one Severn Way, but a gas-fired power station. I'll tell you about it now. So that's our power station there with the incinerator kind of all in that area, and the fact the railway then, I think there's like a loop, and then the trains disappear in that concrete tunnel there going underneath the main road to Avonmouth, the A403, and so this is our tracks here, and it diverges off at this point. That power station is a Siemens gas-fired power station. It's 1,100 megawatts. It was opened in the year 2000, millennium. Siemens, it's a German company, I do believe, but yes, a gas-fired power station here. Obviously, older technology today. It's not using solar or wind, although there are, as you can see, just behind it, some very large wind turbines as well. And there's certainly a very good location for wind turbines here, right next to the Bristol Channel. Just found this right by the side of the path here. It says 71. It looks like a gravestone. I don't think it is. It's a boundary marker. I'm wondering, is this our boundary marker to say that we're in the City of Bristol now? I'll have a look at my map. So yes, that is our boundary marker, 71. Indication of 71, I don't know. But we're now in the City of Bristol, so welcome to the City of Bristol. Goodbye, South Gloucestershire, at least for the time being. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a proper welcoming sign, wouldn't it, rather than that? But very curious, but it's like probably like an old parish boundary, and it's denoted by the pill there, new cut pill. That is the defining marker between South Gloucestershire and Bristol. Now this is an alternative path I'm walking. The actual Severn Way is a narrow footpath right by the side of that busy road. Because Avonmouth has the docks, of course, there's lots of warehouses in this area. Because of that, that means lots of lorries, so it's a very noisy location. But we will be off it shortly. So this is a slightly different route to the main Severn Way, though it's not alternative, away from the road. And it'll join up with the main route of the Severn Way. I've just rechecked my map again. At Cabot Park, which will mean we should avoid, well, go around the side of Chittenden industrial estate and head down that way. And then we'll join up with Lawrence Weston Road when we'll see some greenery. Though it is green here, it is like a little green corridor away from that busy road just the other side of the trees and shrubs there. Oh, well, that's good to see. That's our first Severn Way Bristol Link sign. Now, this Bristol Link that we're on today is actually much newer. Not sure what year it opened. The Severn Way opened as a Millennium Project, 2000, I believe. And the Bristol Link came quite a few years later. In the 2010s, but it's good to see. Well, I'm still on the alternative path though, so it looks like originally this was the Bristol Link, although it's not. The King Charles Coast Path, which is separate, that's off to my right down a very busy industrial road, so this looks definitely the better option. So we've now turned the proverbial corner. Oh, this, by the way, is the Avon and Somerset training centre to do with rescue and fire brigade. The wind has dropped here now, so we're away from the Bristol Channel as we head towards Lawrence Weston. So as well as being the Bristol Link of the Severn Way, this is also National Cycle Route number 41. We're going to be staying on this till we get to the ridge in Lawrence Weston. I'm heading up to the house there, King's Weston House. That's the plan anyway. And so yeah, it's just a straight run through on this really, so it's nice and wide. There is a drainage channel there on the other side of where all that warehousing is. I think it's called Cabot Park. There are lots of lakes and storage tanks, and between Cabot Park and the Bristol channels there's some oil storage depots as well, so it's still in a very, very industrial area here. Just went underneath the railway line again, the Severn Beach line, which I came in on. So we're now on the Bristol Channel side of it, because that's going to skirt and follow the Avon Gorge, as we will do too later. Have a nice tree-lined bit here, lots of mistletoe in the tree. Yes, I'm still in Avonmouth. I'm actually, this cycle track here, which also now marked the Avon Cycle Way, which I think we've come across before, is running parallel to Cabot Park. But you would never think it, walking through this narrow avenue of mistletoe-filled trees here. I think they're lime trees as well. It's unusual to them be planted. They probably predate all the warehousing and chaos that's going on around them. Afraid I've hit a bit of a major obstacle, ladies and gentlemen. I've followed the path which is marked as being the Severn Way according to the fingerpost signs, but not the OS map. And on the fingerpost sign, it is a footpath marked on there, and there should be a bridge over the M49, but a footbridge which doesn't seem to be there anymore. So I'm having to double back on myself. So I'm a bit stuck at this point. I'm not quite sure what to do. I'll get back to you in a bit. Well, this is the most curious thing. The track was completely blocked by concrete. I had to kind of squeeze back through the hedge. But the bridge is still here. But there's no sign saying you can walk across it or you can't walk across it. It's not in great condition, but it's going over the M49, which is a motorway cord, which goes from the M5 heading down towards the southwest, Devon and Cornwall, etc., and across to the Severn Bridge, the new Severn Bridge, to take you along the M4 into South Wales. So yeah, this is our M49. Sorry, I'm a bit confused because it's thrown me out somewhat. There's our motorway down there, the M49, and that's looking back in the direction of Avonmouth. Oh, just over here, nothing to do with our Severn Way, but it adds to our story, is a huge, you see that along there, that's a huge Amazon warehouse. So if you order anything from Amazon and you live in and around the Bristol, South Gloucestershire, North Somerset areas, that's probably where it's going to be coming from. Anyway, I'm just hoping I'm going to be able to get through this track to join up with Lawrence Weston Road. Although it's called Lawrence Weston Road, it's not actually a road, it's a track. So that should be over there. And I can see the ridge behind me here. That's Lawrence Weston Ridge, and that's what we're aiming for. In fact, I think I can just see the back of the house at King's Weston House over there. That's where we need to be, over in that direction. That was a little bit heart-stopping back there. So we're now back on the official track, which is the Lawrence Weston Road. That's what it's marked as, the US map, although it's not. It's a cycle track, a bridleway and a footpath. It looks like we're heading up again now to go over another motorway. Yes, of course, it's the M5. Sign back there saying cyclist Severn Beach, 5 miles. So we're a third of our way now, so we're now in the centre of Lawrence Weston, which is the part of Bristol which, well, it's kind of built up post-war in the 50s, really. Mixed housing here. We're going to make our way up to King's Weston Ridge and then around to King's Weston House. I think there I'm going to take a break after all that toing and froing around those footpaths there that seem to be blocked and then not blocked. But so far so good. So yeah, a third of the way there. We'll take a break there at King's Weston, and I'll take a break there. I'll tell you a little bit about the park there and the house. Well, I'm in a wood now above Lawrence Weston suburb. I think that's what it's called, not a village, suburb. The path here though isn't, so I'm having to watch where I walk because it's not very clearly marked. Again, I apologise if it's a bit grainy or slightly softer image because it's very, very dark in here. Very cloudy today. Making our way through, but it's not clearly marked. It was clearly marked through Lawrence Weston itself, but then, usual thing, signposts disappear. So I'm hoping that it's the right way. I've been tracking it on my OS map and it appears to be so, but I'm just surprised that such a very, very narrow and not very clearly defined path, which is full of ups and downs, is our right of way. It looks like it's a limestone hill ridge. That's the backs of the gardens that I was walking through, well, the housing that I was walking through earlier down there. So they back onto this woodland, and we still need to climb to make our way up to King's Weston House. Now, my thoughts on the walk so far, I'd say we're well over a third of the way there to the centre of Bristol. Of course, we're in Bristol, but not the city centre, of course. Is that there hasn't been anywhere to stop and any breaks. I desperately need a cup of tea and a biscuit, sit down for a little while. So I think I need to go this way now. I'll have to stop and check my map again, and I'll get back to you in a bit. It's very dense woodland here. You can just hear the rush of the M5 that we went over earlier, just the other side of Lawrence Weston. But apart from that, I just heard a couple of peregrines around, and you would have no idea you're in a large urban area at this point. It's very strange. Now, just a few thoughts about this Bristol Link part of the Severn Way so far. Don't expect it to be urban. That bit there through the wood was almost like a jungle, as dense as any woodland I've gone through, with some very tricksy terrain. The path, well, there are some signs saying Severn Way, Bristol Link, but sometimes it's confusing because you're not sure if they're telling you it's to go to Severn Beach or what it's telling you into Bristol. It doesn't make it clear, it just says Severn Way, so you're not sure whether it's supposed to be going this way or is this going to take me back to Severn Beach. And there's a lot of quite steep climbing, fallen branches, trees and very rocky ground, so be very, very careful, and you will need a map because don't rely on the signs. It's the route here is actually, because we're not following the river, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. I thought, once we get to Bristol, it'll be straightforward. It's going to be lanes and pavements. Not the case. Not the case at all. Just down there is Avon docks. That is actually Royal Portsbury dock. That's where the cars come in, which I talked about before, where they're imported. when I was doing Sharpness Docks. We found out they actually arrived by road to there. We should be coming to a road, sure. Lots of moles down there on this common here above the Bristol Channel. We should be coming into a road. We'll get to a road, shall I say, and it's at that point we should enter the King's Weston house estate. I'm hoping there's going to be a seat. This is part of the King's Weston estate. Well, I've got King's Weston School behind me, and I'm going to show it. I know it's summer holidays, but I don't like showing schools. And our house is straight down this road. But that would have been the mews to the house, I think. It's now turned into apartments. So yeah, we just need to go down here. There's actually a plaque on the wall here saying the stable building to King's Weston House was designed in 1763 by Robert Milne. And in 1962 it's turned into a police station, City and County of Bristol, and that's Bristol's crest on the top there. So we're on King Weston Ridge, which extends from Henbury over there all the way to Shirehampton, which is where we're going. And the house behind me there, King Weston House, was actually built in the early 18th century and remodelled extensively in the 19th. And during World War I it was used as a hospital. Later on it was annexed for Bath University's archaeology department, I believe, or architecture department should I say. It's now used for weddings and conferences. In fact, I attended a wedding here at King's Weston House just a few years ago. Most pleasant place indeed, with beautiful grounds as well. King's Weston House has a number of notable outbuildings, including those mews that we saw earlier as we were walking towards it. And it has another one called the Echo, which is actually a loggia, an Italian design building. And the reason it's called that is because there is an echo whenever you enter it. I'm not entirely sure where it is though. You also have views right back down to Avon from this direction as well. So we're going to make our way back along the Severn Way now, entering into the suburb of Shirehampton. And after we've done that, there's a bit of a loop, and then we'll be following the Avon, or River Avon should I say, the Avon Gorge, to make our way to Clifton. There are lots of public footpaths that crisscross over King's Weston Park, and it's a really pleasant place. We need to go down this way. Oh, I forgot to mention, there was a Iron Age fort on the ridge hereabouts near the house. I don't exactly know where though, it doesn't say on the map exactly where that is, but it does say it in my notes that I've got. This way, we're following the ridge over Shirehampton, and just the other side of Shirehampton there is remains of a Roman villa just between Shirehampton itself and going in towards Avonmouth. We'll actually be seeing something else Roman, or probably won't see that much of it, but we'll be going past where it was later on the walk today. So we're going to head this way towards Shirehampton. So I'm in Watling Way in Shirehampton, and behind me over there is the Avonmouth Bridge on the M5, and construction on that started back in 1969. Now I remember the M5 being constructed near to where I live in Stroud. It started out of Albury, where it connects up with the M6 around about 1963, and it got to Bromsgrove around 65, and then it stopped around the junction of the present day M50, then known as the Ross Spur at Strensham, what's called Strensham Interchange, where they got Strensham service. It stayed there for a bit, and then it opened down to Stroudwater around 1973, and then 1975 this magnificent bridge opened, this Avonmouth Bridge here, taking the M5 over the Avon Gorge. And it was only about 3 years later that the motorway was completed right into the city of Exeter in Devon. Some, 14 years from completion of construction. Amazing. Right, it's really difficult doing pieces to camera that bit, so I'll just explain what I've just done. So where you saw me in the housing estate in Shirehampton, I've walked close up to the Portway, which is the A4. Now close to there is a new railway station called Portway Park and Ride, which I have done, as you guessed it, a separate video about in one of my railway series a little while ago. Was it 2 years ago? Probably was. Anyway, there's a level crossing there, so I've walked over that level crossing. So the railway track is on that side, so the Portway is over there. That's the M5 there. This is the Severn Way here. We're making our way across to Sea Mills along this way now. What's going to be joining us shortly is the River Avon, which is tidal, and it's in there as it goes underneath the M5. And I'll tell you all about that in a bit. You can't quite see it yet, but I'm hoping we'll be able to get up to it soon. This area here, by the way, is actually part of a nature reserve. I think it's post-industrial. There's like bits of lamps and odd bits of concrete plinths and bits of tarmac. So it was obviously used for another purpose at some point previously. It's now known as Lamplighters Marsh. No idea why. I'm guessing it's something to do with the river. Did they park up here, or anchor up shall I say, at this point? Something to do with lamps. I don't know. If you know, drop a line below. Now, if you like your facts, a few facts for you about the Avonmouth Bridge. As I say, it started in 1969, closed, well, some say 1974, some say 1975. I'm not entirely sure, one way or the other, probably end of 74, early 75, something like that. It's a box girder bridge, so it's reinforced concrete with a steel construction, steel inner, should I say, and it's 1,433 metres long, so that's pretty long. It's also 30 metres from there to the water. Why so high? Well, of course, because ships need to go underneath along the tidal River Avon, of which that is thus there. So, really difficult piece of engineering this, to get the motorway across both the Avon Valley and the river, to link it up both sides, not only to carry a road, but it's also 4 lanes each side. That's 8 lanes, plus there's a cycle lane and footpath, I think, both sides. So 10 lanes, I think. I'm not sure if there's a, hard shoulder, that sort of thing. Not sure if there's one of those as well. Perhaps you can tell me. But either way, it's wide and it's high and it's long. Very impressive piece of engineering. Now, about our river. Let's go on a little bit further and I'll tell you some more. Interesting sign there. It says vessels are warned not to anchor or take the ground across this section of the river. I think that's because of the tidal range and because of the mud banks on it as well. You just see how wide that span, just that one span alone is here of the Avonmouth Bridge as well. So where does this river start, the River Avon? Well, of course, before I say that, to just point out that this is the Bristol Avon. Of course, in my area we also have the Stratford-upon-Avon and the other Avon that flows through Salisbury in Wiltshire. I think there's a couple more as well. There's one in Devon as well, up around South Brent area. Probably 1 or 2 more. So it's a common word. It's actually Saxon, I think. And also there's a Welsh derivative, Avon, meaning river. So that's where it comes from. Hence why there's so many. So it means river. Strange. So where does it rise? Well, it rises in 2 counties, both Gloucestershire and South Gloucestershire. It rises from a spring called Warwell Spring, just outside the town of Tetbury in Gloucestershire, close to the Wiltshire border there. And it also rises near the village of Didmarton in South Gloucestershire, which isn't that far, of course, away from Tetbury. And there's another tributary of it, which rises in the Badminton estate. So the bit from Didmarton, is it Hill Springs or something like that? I'll put it what exactly it is below, the one near Didmarton, merges with a stream coming out of the Badminton estate, and that is what I think is called the Shirehampton arm of the River Avon. And then you have the Tetbury arm, aforementioned, and they join up in the town of Malmesbury in Wiltshire. After joining up in Malmesbury, then heads south to the town of Chippenham and then goes through Melksham before heading across in this direction, meeting up at Bradford-on-Avon and then through the city of Bath and then through the city of Bristol to here near Avonmouth. Now you might be able to make out some hills on the horizon there. They're the Failand Hills, Failand Hills, and they lie in the county of North Somerset near the village of Wraxall. I think that's not far from where the National Trust Tintsfield estate is. I don't know if you can see that over there. That is the village of Pill. Now Pill used to be connected to Avonmouth, this side of the Avon, via a ferry, which, yes you guessed it, it closed when the Avonmouth Bridge opened. It's saying on that information board there was 1974, so we're going to go with 1974 when that opened, because it has a footpath and a cycle track. People could then use it, as well as people driving on the M5, to get across from Pill into Bristol. Also has a royal connection because King William arrived here. That's King William III arrived here in 1690 after the Battle of the Boyne. So there's our river there, just the other side of the reed beds. Amazing reed beds here. I've come across this before, of course, walking alongside Sabrina many times. Now Shirehampton, I can't work out the origins of the name. Locally the village is known as Shire, or the Shire. However, the place we're going to next, called Sea Mills, I do know its origins, and it's nothing to do with what you're probably thinking of. Now on lots of sections of the Severn Way, they've been pretty quiet apart from around Shrewsbury and through Worcester and a little bit around the canal section around Gloucester. Bristol's actually the biggest place in terms of population, biggest settlement that we've come across on the Severn Way at the end of it. What's the population of Bristol? About 550,000 people, give or take, somewhere around there. So you would think, theoretically, that this would be the busiest section, because the other ones we've come across on the Severn Way are busy. In fact, last time was the busiest section I'd seen before, between Oldbury and Severn Beach. That was a very busy section of the Severn Way. But you'd be wrong, because I've seen virtually no one else doing this walk. Well, no one else doing the walk, full stop. There've been some people walking around King's Weston House. The sun came out there. We've got a few showers now, unfortunately, and a little bit through Shirehampton, through King's Weston Ridge above Shirehampton. We're still on the edge of the village at the moment. I've just gone past the village green back there with a nice looking pub. Unfortunately, I couldn't film it because it was chucking it down with rain at that point. But yet no one's coming along here at all. It is marked-ish. There are the odd signs and stickers on lampposts, that sort of thing. But again, I think just awareness of the Bristol link of the Severn Way is probably virtually nil. So hopefully this video goes a little way to redress that balance. So this delightful parcel of land here is owned by the National Trust and is called Shirehampton Park, even though we're closer probably now to Seamills than we are to Shirehampton. Got beautiful views of our Avon down there, the tidal Avon. We'll be coming into Avon Gorge shortly, but this is a really lovely spot. You're probably wondering why there was gates back there and I needed to go underneath that bridge. Well, I am on the right track. The gates are there because occasionally they need to close those gates if there's an extra high tide. So we're back here by the River Avon, so you can see we're heading into the gorge now. Still making our way to Seamills, but we are nearly there. And sometimes, as I say, they need to close those, and then you have to make a diversion around by the River Trim, which is a bit further to the north, not that far from Westbury-on-Trim, I guess. But yeah, so this is a really nice landscape. The Portway Road, that really busy A4 noisy road, is up there, so that's behind us again now. So we are away from that at this point here. It looks like it's an anchor point just in there. You probably won't be able to see it though, and I guess that was for anchoring ships out, but it's probably a little bit muddy to go out there today, so I won't be doing that because we've had some rain this afternoon. Thankfully the rain has now stopped, so we're making our way to, I'll probably grab a seat because I haven't sat down for a little while, at Seamills railway station, and I'll tell you a little bit about that location very soon. So I think I can see it just in front of me, so just a few more minutes walking time I think, and we'll be there. And it's funny how sections of the Avon here are very reminiscent of the lower sections that we saw on the tidal section of the River Severn, and how the two have become inextricably linked with this flowing into the Bristol Channel, of course, and both being linked up where you have the port at Sharpness in Gloucestershire, and that being used for big ships. Big ships one time would have come up here right into the heart of Bristol. So two very, very similar things. Just got a train going past here, so you can make out where the track is now. So that's heading back towards, there it goes, heading back towards Avonmouth and Severn Beach, which is where, of course, we started our journey today. Our Seamills station is just over there. That's that red brick building you can probably just make out. And you probably make out a bridge, a rusty coloured bridge. Well, I think it actually is a bit rusty, going over a pill of the River Avon. And we need to go the other side of that inland to make our way across that inlet where there used to be a port. I'll show you some more. So that's a very impressive railway bridge. Of course, the line opened in 1900, so this would have been constructed there or about or just before. And that's our tidal River Avon over there. Actually, I don't think that building is anything to do with the railway. I did think it was. The railway station building is a bit further to our left. Maybe that's something to do with shipping, because that window is angled diagonally looking right back towards Avonmouth. Now this is where it looks really impressive. No, I don't mean the bridge. That is impressive in its own right, although it is rusting worryingly over there. I think that's going to need some attention soon, that's for sure. Those stays on it. But it's this, which is a much older port here. Now, this used to be the Roman port of Abona, E-B-O-N-A. And the walls that you see don't date from Roman times, but parts of it go back to medieval times. So you've got the blocks there that you can see on the top. See where that two crows are? That part of the port walls there is much older. So although I'm not saying that's Roman, it's certainly probably going back to medieval times. And yes, there's a very substantial harbour walls here at Sea Mills. An equally impressive road bridge. It actually looks like a railway viaduct, but it's a road viaduct over the inlet here at Sea Mills. Now, where the name Sea Mills comes from is nothing to do with the sea. So we've got the River Trim meeting the River Avon here at Sea Mills. But it was called after a mill called Seamill, S-E-A-M-S-E-A-M-M-I-L-L-E. The seam in that is nothing to do with coal either. It means a pack horse of grain because of the mill. It meant it was carrying one pack horse of grain. Seamill, nothing to do with sea. Yes, amazing story. It also says there's a river light crossing. So you've got a level crossing just back there, and it says that was used for a lookout for the river. So fascinating place. There was a dock here. It was leased to the King's Weston estate, which we saw earlier in the video, back in 1712. So hasn't been used for quite some time, but still fascinating to see. I do have to add a correction, because I said earlier that the bridge here opened in 1900. It was the line to Severn Beach that opened in 1900. The station here actually opened on the 6th of March 1865 as part of the Bristol Port Railway and Pier Company to transport the goods from the docks in Avonmouth into central Bristol. And it was extended further on up to Narroways Hill Junction as part of the Clifton Extension Railway in 1877. Well, I'm afraid it's a little bit disappointing. Yes, we're here in Bristol. In fact, I'm on the Downs at Clifton, which we've been to on West Country Wanderings before. But unfortunately, I'm sad to report that tonight there's actually going to be planned rioting again. And it's going to be in the floating harbour area and around by Castle Hill, which is exactly where I'd hoped to finish the Severn Way series. Now, Castle Hill's an interesting area because it's got two sites of remains of churches there. There's also the remains of Bristol Castle, and it overlooks the floating harbour. It's just south of Broadmead Shopping Centre. But that's exactly where the rioting is planned for tonight. The time now is 4:45, and it's all going to kick off down there at 7 o'clock. In fact, there's people already making their way there. I've just had a look at Twitter, and there's lots of police vans, yeah, all that kind of thing. So I'm afraid to say I'm actually going to cut the video short here in Clifton. Can't get down to the floating harbour. I think my safety is more of concern than doing a video, because I want to carry on filming for another day, and we will be back to the floating harbour again, because of course I want to do Bristol Harbour Railway, the second part of that. I also want to visit the M Shed, and we will visit the Castle View area, that area where the churches are, and Bristol Castle. We'll do that on another day, so I do apologise for that. But that is it. That is the end of the Severn Way, the 26th part. Here we are in Bristol, although we're not close to the Avon. I've just walked up, we're only about half a mile away from the River Avon at this point. I was hoping to get a bit further down to Clifton Suspension Bridge, but they've got scaffolding on that one up there, so you did get a couple of shots there. And as I say, I have done a couple of videos on Clifton previously. What I'm going to do from here though is walk to Clifton Down Station and then make my way to Temple Meads and back to Gloucestershire from then. Hopefully it'll be, fingers crossed, it'll be okay. I feel safer inside Temple Meads Station rather than what is probably likely to be happening, people gathering on the outside of it, because they're likely to have British Transport Police. Anyway, enough of that. Just going back to the Severn Way. I hope you've enjoyed all 26 episodes. If you haven't seen all 26 episodes, well, not to worry. You can always dip into them anytime. You don't have to watch them in any particular order. If there's only one or two particular areas that take your fancy, well, you're welcome to do that. It's all contained in the Severn Way playlist, and you should find them all in order there, starting off at video number 1, which is called Looking for the Soul, back there on Mount Plimmerman in Paris, in the middle of Wales. When it was raining, it's dry here in Bristol. So it's actually a pleasant evening. It's quite mild, it's dry, a bit overcast. So I can't grumble that. I have enjoyed the walk today. It was actually more challenging than I thought. And I don't mean what's happening here this evening in Bristol. I mean the bit of Lawrence Weston walking through the woods there, there's almost like going through a tropical rainforest. I wasn't expecting that in the middle of a city, or the edge of a city. And it is tricky to follow the path there. So if you are doing the Severn Way, the Bristol link from Severn Beach to the centre of Bristol, or vice versa, I highly recommend you will need a map or the OS map app for looking at that. Now, I do apologise, I did go slightly off route because it did say permissive way to avoid the busy roads in Avon, which is what I decided to do. Unfortunately, it comes to a bit of a cul-de-sac if you do that way, and it's very hard then to retrace your back way to the Severn Way proper. And I really struggled with it, as you saw when I was trying to get over the M49, I think it is, the chord one that joins up the M5 to the new Severn Bridge, the M4. I was struggling to find that bridge there. That's very strange. It's all kind of shut off there and all signage shut down. It is passable just, but with a great deal of difficulty. I had to take my rucksack off to squeeze in between some 2 lines of fence posts there. But we made it. We got here to Bristol. We completed the journey. All 226 miles, I do believe, all the way. That's what the Ramblers Association have worked out the entire length to be from Mount Plimmerman right into Bristol. You can take off a couple of miles because I'm not right by the harbour side there, about 1.5 miles away from here. But anyway, that is it. That is journey's done. It is done. But that's not the end of West Country Wanderings, or indeed our longer projects, because we're going to return, probably in September, all being well, with a new series looking at the Geopark Way, which will be from Bridgnorth in Shropshire. I know that's just a little bit outside my area, but we have looked at it before on the Severn Way, right up, or down, shall I say, to the city of Gloucester, following not a river, but a geological feature. In fact, it's a ridge of hills, including ones like the Appley Hills and the Malvern Hills. So there's going to be some great views on that walk, I think. It's going to be quite challenging. So each section on that will be less than what we've done here on the Severn Way, but I'm looking to bringing that to you here on West Country Wanderings. I hope you enjoyed looking at the Severn Way and all of the journers that we've had alongside Sabrina here on West Country Wanderings. Until next time on the channel, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you all again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.